Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory. I am Jesse Friedman, and that is Jack Sommers. And Jack, the sell-off has officially begun as the Diamondbacks trade Josh Naylor to the Seattle Mariners. They get two pitchers in return. None of the pitchers that we talked about on our show earlier today. For Josh Naylor, you maybe weren't expecting that anyway. But left-handed pitcher Brandyn Garcia is one of the guys here, and then the other one is right-handed pitcher Ashton Izzi. Garcia just made his big league debut a few days ago. Izzi is in Single A for the Seattle Mariners and will join the Diamondbacks organization, presumably down in High A for them, I believe, is the report. So, Jack, your first thoughts on this trade for the Diamondbacks?
Well, it's first of all, it's not a shock that Naylor ended up in Seattle. That's kind of what's been expected or rumored to happen. And it's not absolutely shocking that it happened this quickly. I mean, we've been kind of waiting to get some kind of notice of something happening. Just nothing shocking at this point. Naylor is the first domino to fall. He's certainly not the biggest. The expected trade return, as you just said, for Josh Naylor is not anywhere near what was expected for Eugenio Suárez or either of the two starting pitchers. So we're still in evaluation mode to try to figure out this trade. I think it's on the surface, it looks like a reasonable return. I think you said not too little, not a lot. That's, maybe one way to look at it. So time will tell, of course, but we'll do our best to break it down for you.
So Brandyn Garcia, Jack, probably the bigger name of the two, although MLB Pipeline has these two guys in a very similar place in their top prospect rankings. Garcia at number 13 and Izzi at number 16. So not a significant difference there in terms of prospect pedigree, but Garcia is the name that you're going to see in the majors a whole lot more soon if you're a Diamondbacks fan. He is a 25-year-old lefty Jack. He throws a sinker up to 97 miles per hour. And as I referenced earlier, he made his big league debut just a few days ago. I know the Diamondbacks have optioned him to AAA. So as of now, we're expecting him to start in Reno, but this is absolutely a pitcher that you could see in the big league sometime soon.
Yeah. Garcia also throws that slider sweeper combination. It's kind of interesting. If you get a chance, you can always go to my Twitter. I just tweeted out a little bit of like two quick highlight videos. Don't go now, but later when you're done with the show, you can go see a couple highlight videos that I tweeted out just to get a quick idea of his very interesting arm slot, which is quite low. It's almost sidearm. The run that he gets on that sinker looks pretty impressive at times, perhaps.
This year, he spent certainly most of the season down in the minor leagues in 24 games in Double A. He had a 3.96 ERA there. The Mariners promoted him to AAA, a 2.16 ERA in 8 appearances in AAA. And then he got just a brief opportunity in the majors. It didn't go great for him. He gave up a run in 2 innings, 4 hits, 3 walks, only 1 strikeout. So his introduction to the major leagues was not the kindest necessarily. But this is a guy, Jack, who could be a part of the Diamondbacks bullpen for a long time. Because he just made his big league debut, there's obviously many, many years of control here. You're getting him for theoretically the full 6 years if he's able to find success and stick around. This could be a significant asset for the Diamondbacks for a long time. Obviously, it hurts to lose someone like Josh Naylor. The Diamondbacks lineup will not be the same. There's no getting around that. But if Garcia can emerge as a middle innings, maybe even high leverage sort of reliever for this team and be in that role for 5 or 6 years, that there could be a lot of value there.
Yeah. I mean, look, you don't get a 25-year-old left-handed reliever that can throw 97 every day, right? I mean, who's the lefty in the Diamondback system that has that kind of profile? So that's makes him interesting to me,
Yeah.
right? He's not a soft tossing, 89 mile an hour sinker lefty. He's a 97 mile an hour sinker lefty. So there's obviously, and he was just converted, in the last year.
Yeah.
So it's, I couldn't find any velo readings from when he was a starter because they were below AAA. So they don't have that information at Baseball Savant. And I was just curious to see, like, did he pick up any velocity? What was he averaging, before conversion to reliever? So I hadn't get a chance to do all that kind of research yet and figure all that out. But, very intriguing. For 2 months of Josh Naylor, who is a very good hitter and kind of not so good defender, and it adds up to probably less than one WAR, and the team saves over $3 million. This is what trade deadlines look like.
Jeff Irving in the chat said, "Is it possible the D-backs got better today? Naylor 0.8 F4, 118 WRC plus. I assume that's the projection for the rest of the year, but well below average defense at first. Brandyn Garcia could be a force in this bullpen this year." I don't know, Jack, if I'm going to say the D-backs got better. I think it's probably a stretch for Brandyn Garcia to produce nearly one win in 2 months. And as I said earlier, it appears he's starting in the minors. We don't know if we're going to see Garcia in the majors anytime soon. I imagine we'll see him before the end of the year, but it's not really a given at this point. Nonetheless, in the long run, as I said before, if Garcia is a guy who can be a factor in this bullpen for the next 6 seasons, then for 2 months of Josh Naylor, there's a world where a few years from now, this deal makes a whole lot of sense.
Right. And look, it's an opportunity for Tristin English. He's 28 years old. It's kind of, do or die time for his ability to really secure some kind of major league role. So I always enjoy seeing what a young guy can do. And who knows? I mean, maybe he can translate some of that inflated Reno numbers to the major leagues. It would be great if he could. Most guys don't. One thing I've done in the past, when you look at guys 25 and older putting up these kind of numbers in Reno, they almost always struggle in the long term. It's one thing if you got a 22 or 3-year-old in Reno, you don't worry too much about the inflated numbers. But when you have a mature hitter with a mature approach, taking advantage of that environment, it's very easy to run up some big numbers. So we'll have to see if it translates. But we'll get a good look at him, right? I mean, I don't know how many days before Pavin Smith returns. I believe that's probably a week away, maybe 10 days away, something along those lines. He seems to be getting close, but he's going to need some time. He's just finishing taking dry swings. I think he's been swinging off a tee, maybe taking flips starting. So, it's an oblique injury, right? He's going to need at least another week or 10 days. So English is going to get a little bit of a run here. It's going to be fun to see what he can do.
Yeah, and I think that is part of making a move like this, is that it does give you an opportunity, for better or worse, to kind of see what you have in certain guys, right? And it would be the same if the Diamondbacks trade Eugenio Suárez, Jack. I mean, I think there's a decent chance that if that deal happens, which we still expect it to, we're going to get into that a little bit more later. Then you're probably seeing some Jordan Lawler down the stretch, and there's something to be said for actually having the bandwidth as an organization to give Jordan Lawler some runway and allow him to play through some of the struggles, when that just isn't something this organization has really been able to do over these past couple of seasons. The same could be true to an extent with a Tristin English, or even with a Pavin Smith, who the D-backs they have a pretty big decision to make on Pavin this offseason, Jack. With Pavin, he's going to be out of minor league options, right? So it makes it a little bit more complicated as the D-backs try to figure out what the future is at first base. Maybe this is their opportunity to figure out whether he's part of that or not.
Yeah. The one thing that was interesting was that it was English, not Tower, that was called up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what that says. Tower just came back from the minor league injured list. Maybe he wasn't really quite ready, needed a few more games there, or maybe they felt like the things that they asked Tower to work on, he never really got a chance to work too much on it, because he, got hit by a pitch, injured his back, and went on the IL. So, interesting decision there from the team. If we get a chance to talk to Mike Hazen tomorrow, which is what's on the schedule, that might be a question to ask too. Like, why English over Tower?
Looking at, I guess there's another player here for us to talk about as well. It's right-handed pitcher Ashton Izzi, who, as I said earlier, is a little bit farther away. But the Mariners do have one of the better farm systems in all of baseball. So getting a number 16, 15 prospect, whatever it is, from a Mariners organization that actually, I mean, it's maybe better than what you would expect from most organizations. The numbers this year, Jack, for Izzy in single A are not particularly great.
He's in high
Um,
A, Jesse.
High A, thank you. Yes. High. He's been with High A with the Mariners, and we expect him to go to High A for the Diamondbacks. 12 starts, a 5.51 ERA. Not great on the surface, Jack. Some of the underlying numbers look a little bit better. He has 54 strikeouts to 21 walks in 47 and a third innings. So he's actually missed more bats this season than he did last year when he had a 2.85 ERA in single A. So kind of an odd development there where the ERA has gotten much worse, but the strikeout rate has actually gone up. What stands out to you about Ashton Izzi?
What stands out to me is that he's still got a lot of work to do to get his command in order. I mean, he's got to command his pitches. He doesn't throw, super hard. He's got, 3, 4 pitch mix, right? So he's going to have to, work the edges, and he's going to have really good control and command to capitalize on all of his, potential there. So that for me, obviously the scouting grades say the slider is his best pitch. We'll see if that's the case, but more strikes and fewer walks is really what's going to set him apart. If he can do that, if he can dial it down and get that walk rate under 3, then he could have a successful career. But a fella like this, with a 3.5, 4 walk rate, that's not going to work, right? So he's still a work in progress.
Lance Brozdowski, who knows all the things about all the minor league pitchers, put out a tweet about really both Izzy and Garcia. He has some notes there about both of them. He talked about Izzy being a 5-pitch righty with 7 feet of extension, which is actually very, very good. That would be elite in the major leagues. That's pretty impressive extension. 4-seamer at 94.5 miles per hour, sinker at 94, slider 86. As you mentioned, the slider appears to be the big pitch here. Lance talked about that pitch having plus miss and chase rates, which is certainly something you love to see on an out pitch. There's a sweeper there at 82 miles per hour and then a changeup as well at 88. So a lot of things have to come together here, Jack. This is not a player, again, that we're expecting to see super soon. I think over at Fangraphs and their scouting report, they refer to Izzy as a guy who maybe could debut by 2027. Probably not someone you're going to see next year, but maybe if things go well, there's a path for him to pitch in the majors in 2027. But of course, we're a ways away from that. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah. Again, this is a very young pitcher. He was drafted out of high school. And so it's going to be up to the Diamondbacks development team to figure out how to get this guy moving in the right direction. So I trust Lance's evaluations quite a bit. He's been right on the money on so many things. So he's become a very trusted source. So I would recommend everybody giving him a read and a follow on Twitter as well. He's a great follow.
About Brandyn Garcia, Lance says that he is a reliever for him. And that
Yeah.
is an interesting point. I know a lot of people, when this move first came down, were pointing out that Garcia was actually a starter, came up primarily as a starter for the Mariners over the past couple of seasons in their minor league system. But then this year, they made the decision to just have him work out of the bullpen exclusively. And the results there have been pretty good. Obviously, he's found his way up to the majors, even though it was just a brief stint. So, you look at the numbers last year, Jack, in high A and double A. Garcia pitched in 27 games, 25 starts. He had a 2.25 ERA primarily as a starter. It's hard not to look at those numbers and at least wonder if maybe there's something here. Certainly, we'll ask Mike Hazen that question tomorrow. But after you see some video of this guy pitch, it doesn't exactly scream starter. I mean, it's a borderline, sidearm, very funky looking delivery. The walk numbers have been a little bit on the higher end for him. I think the bullpen is probably going to be his home, and that's okay. I mean, if you're trading Josh Naylor, 2 months of Josh Naylor, you probably aren't realistically going to get a starting pitcher who's going to slot into your rotation and be there for 6 years. I don't think anyone who is expecting that, I don't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely a question for Mike tomorrow. I'm not really going to take too big a stance on this. I don't want to pretend to know a lot about Brandyn Garcia, other than what most everybody here probably already knows. I never watched him pitch. I looked at some video after the trade. That's it. So I don't really have a strong opinion. I'm going to go by what the team says. So it'll be interesting. Maybe the fact that they send him to AAA is to have him work as a starter, or
Could
maybe
be.
it's just get him into the system and learn about the D-back system, as opposed to just tossing him right into major league games while they still count.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, Brandyn Garcia to me, Jack, feels like a guy who could slot into an important role in a bullpen at some point, maybe pretty soon. The ground ball rate for him has always been pretty high. That's certainly something you love to see, and not surprising for someone who throws a sinker as much as he does. And it's at 97 miles per hour. So, as you said earlier, the D-backs don't really have any lefties in the farm system who have that kind of stuff. So I think this is intriguing, a profile where a guy can miss some bats and also generate a whole lot of ground balls. If he can find a way to do that in the big leagues, he could have a pretty long major league career.
Yeah. A couple of comments I want to respond to real quick. Justin McDermott. To be honest, this year says we need relievers in the pipeline too. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And when I started off talking about this, I mean, the concept of having a power lefty in the bullpen is exciting to me. More so than, a 27-year-old guy still trying to figure it out over the next 2 years as a starter. So, hopefully that's the way that runs out. And then somebody who doesn't courtesy flush. Okay. I heard McCann was taking ground balls at first. That is correct. I was watching McCann take ground balls at first the other day. Talk about work in progress. That's an emergency stopgap situation only. Just
Yeah.
from watching him, you can see he's doing it because he's needed to be there as an emergency backup. But I don't think that they're going to plan on using him in any significant way at first base unless they're absolutely forced to. Footwork, all of that, you could just it's a guy that hasn't played first base, and you can see what it looks like.
The alternative there was probably having Lourdes Gurriel try to, field some grounders at first base again. I don't think the D-backs really want to do that at this stage in his career. So you sort of just needed another first base option, and McCann, I guess, made the most sense there. As we said earlier, though, Tristin English has been called up, and you certainly figure that he'll get the majority of the time at first base with Josh Naylor no longer in the organization. We have some more to get to here. We're going to talk about bigger picture. What does this mean for the Diamondbacks? What do we expect coming next? Certainly, this is probably not the only trade the Diamondbacks are going to make here in the next week. So we will talk about all of that on the other side of this break. Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. If you've never bet on baseball before, it's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Well, to all of you who are here in the chat, we very much appreciate you being here. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It really helps us out a lot. We're getting very close to having 1,000 subscribers here on Snakes Territory, and we would appreciate your help as we try to get there. Jack, there's a tweet that's been going around. Some people have mentioned it in the chat. I'll throw it up on the screen. This is from Francis Romero, who certainly has sources, has broken a number of big stories in recent years. He said the Arizona Diamondbacks are expected to trade 5 or 6 more players following the Josh Naylor deal, per sources. On our show earlier in the day, Jack, I realized I should have asked you if I set the over-under on D-backs players traded at like 3.5. I wanted to know whether you would have taken the over or the under, but after seeing that tweet, I imagine you're taking the over.
It's hard to say. I hate to just shrug my shoulders and say I don't know, but I don't know. In this case, I'm a little skeptical that they'll go in that hard, but then it's intriguing. Francis is a very well-known, credible reporter who doesn't just send stuff out lightly. I mean, his reports are generally correct. So this particular one, it seems like how could he possibly know that if the deals aren't, unless the deals were all lined up already? Just the way these things happen.
Yeah.
The other point is, there was an earlier report today about the Diamondbacks, holding tough on Eugenio Suárez, and they're not just going to give him up, which echoed my sentiments from this morning's podcast, which you very kindly tweeted out as well. Where I said, look, they got to hold the line on Eugenio Suárez. They can't sell low. They must get more than what that, compensation pick would be. They can't even flirt with something that's roughly comparable. I mean, they have to get more than that. So, maybe that's the holdup here on some other moves. It's hard to say. But the other thing that came to my mind was, all along, everyone's been thinking they'll do some kind of hybrid buy sell, or, maybe they'll trade 2 or 3 or 4 of these guys, but not all 7. There's 7 free agents. So it would be kind of wild if they just totally pivoted and dumped them all. I mean, we'll be busy if that really happens.
I don't know. If I have it in me to do that many emergency podcasts between now and next week. We'll see. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the qualifying offer though, with regard to Suarez, because I think it's worth at least entertaining that topic with Josh Naylor as well. This is a player that I think you and I agreed going into this that the D-backs probably could have given him a qualifying offer, and he probably would have rejected it, and he probably would have signed somewhere else for $50 million or more. I don't know if Josh Naylor's worth a ton more than $50 million, but given his age, I think there's a decent chance that he would have gotten $50 million, and that means that your compensation draft pick is coming after the first round. And as you said on our morning show, Jack, those are valuable draft picks. The Diamondbacks just got Patrick Forbes with that pick with Christian Walker. And, he's slotted in immediately as a number 10 to 15 range prospect right away. So I guess you can ask the question with this trade, did the Diamondbacks actually exceed the value of that draft pick that they could have gotten? Or do we feel like maybe this was underwhelming when you consider that?
Or there's another possibility, which was the Diamondbacks determined that his value on the free agent market would be less than $50 million, which, it's not just a sure thing that he would get over that. We talked about this about a month ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was on. We talked so much, I don't remember if it was on air or in private. But I mentioned, hey, Lourdes got 342, right? I mean, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. coming off the 2023 season, which was a pretty good season, and the team's run to the World Series and all of that. Yes, he was a little bit older. He was a year plus older than Josh is now at the time he signed that, but Lourdes only got 342. So it's possible that teams would look at Naylor and look at his physical conditioning and look at his defense, look at the fact that, yes, he's a pretty good hitter, but he doesn't give you consistent home run power. He's had a couple of pretty good home run years, but not, he's not a consistent 30 homer guy at first base, and say, you know what, we're not going to give that guy $50 million. So,
Yeah.
the Diamondbacks may have made that assessment that they wouldn't have gotten that draft pick.
And I think the other part of that equation that maybe would have led them to that conclusion is that Josh Naylor, with draft pick compensation tied to him, would not have gotten as much money. I mean, Josh
Right,
Naylor, you could argue, is the biggest winner of all in this trade because now he no longer has a draft pick. He no longer has draft pick compensation tied to him when he hits free agency this offseason. And that's
right.
probably going to give him a much more robust market. So maybe that's the difference right there between him getting more than $50 million or less than 50 million. Maybe the D-backs were like, if a team's going to have to give up a draft pick to sign him, they might not be willing to really pay over 50 million for him anyway. So, yeah, in terms of, does Ashton Izzi plus Brandyn Garcia, like, does that exceed the value of a draft pick in theory? I don't know. To me, they seem roughly equivalent. I don't think there's like a huge difference. Obviously, it's one player versus two. Maybe a draft pick at the back end of the first round would have a higher ceiling than either an Ashton Izzi or a Brandyn Garcia. I think that's probably fair, but you're also talking about a player who's right out of high school or right out of college, whereas Brandyn Garcia can slot into the Diamondbacks bullpen as soon as basically right now. And I imagine that was really a determining factor here was the D-backs, say what you will about the value of all those draft picks. The D-backs have a pitching staff that they need to fill out for 2026, and they have a long way to go to get there.
Yeah, one thing I'm just going to kind of counterpoint with was, Ashton Izzi was a fourth round draft pick, right? And you can't really say that his performance to date has elevated him to what, the equivalent of a first round pick. And
That's
I would
fair.
say the same is true with Garcia, who was an 11th round pick. So even you got two, not one, but I'm a little more reserved on this one. I wouldn't qualify them as the equivalent of a comp pick.
Not even combining the two together, like in combined value. I don't know. It's all very theoretical at that point.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not there yet. Maybe they can convince me with a good month of pitching. I'm a recency bias guy.
And again, as you said earlier, if Josh Naylor doesn't get over 50 million, then instead of comparing to a draft pick after the first round, then we're comparing to a draft pick after the second round, and the calculus certainly would change there. So it's hard to put too much stock into that at this point. But yeah, going back to that tweet that we showed from Romero earlier, 5 to 6 players, Jack. I mean, I guess we can mostly guess which names these probably are. I mean, Eugenio Suárez is probably one of them. There's Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly in there. We have some other names on the screen: Randall Grichuk, Shelby Miller, and Jalen Beeks. Once those guys return from injury, which could be here in the next couple of days, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is a name that we've thrown around a little bit. I know Gambo reported there was some interest there, so it's not all that hard to imagine this report being true. And at the
Yeah.
same time, it wouldn't signal a big time, D-backs are punting on 2026 or anything like that. I mean, really, all of these players are on expiring contracts. Gurriel, there's a chance that he would come back next year, probably a pretty decent one. But you could argue that the D-backs might prefer to have him elsewhere anyway, just so that they can save that money.
Yeah. By the way, I'm sorry to circle back on you, but I owe Jeff this shout out. Jeff Irving makes a very good counterpoint. Brandyn Garcia has at least already made the majors for a solid pitching team. How many comp picks never even make the bigs?
Yeah.
So, excellent point. It's funny. The other point that has come to mind today: what's it going to take to sign Eugenio Suárez to an extension, and how far should they go?
Yeah.
That's not a topic we prepared to discuss, but I'm coming at you randomly. Where do you go on that one?
That's a good question. It's a tough one. I personally, Jack, for as fun as it has been to watch a Eugenio Suarez over the past year, And as wild as it's been, I mean, 55 homers in the span of one calendar year. I mean, this has truly been remarkable. Really unlike anything that I've ever witnessed in my time following this baseball team, because I have no recollection of Luis Gonzalez hitting 57 home runs back in the day. All of those things said, I just don't know if Geno Suarez is a safe bet for, you're not getting him on a 1 year contract at this point. You're going to have to go to at least 2 and probably 3. And given that we were talking just a little over a year ago about this guy looking like he might be at the end of his career, I mean, I could see Geno hitting 40 homers next year. I could see him having a 650 OPS, and the end just kind of comes. That's just sort of the way it goes with these power hitters sometimes. So if I have to pick a number, like what seems reasonable to me, I guess like 2 years. I think you have to be at 2 years to even enter the conversation. I don't know if I would go to more than 30 $35 million, and I highly doubt that would get the deal done.
Right. And, just to be clear, because I'm getting spanked here in the comments again, I bring this up because it's a subject that a lot of people bring up, right? A lot of people ask this question, should they extend them? And if so, how much? I think it's a legit question to ask. Everyone knows where I stand. Don't trade him unless you do better than the comp pick value, significantly better. Because at the very least, you can then make the 1 year, $21 or $22 million offer. If he accepts that, which would be surprising, but he might, then you're fine. It's a 1 year deal. You're not going to get hurt. But I could see 235 with some kind of structure for a third year on an option, just in case he doesn't fall apart. 235 wouldn't cripple this organization.
Yeah. It's a good point. And the other factor here too is that I feel like we have very little read at this point of how ready Jordan Lawler is to be an everyday player. And if he isn't ready, which I think you have to be prepared for that to be the case if you're the D-backs. I mean, certainly what we've seen in the majors so far from Lawler hasn't been great. If you're not sure if he's ready, then you kind of have to have some other solution at third base. I mean, are you going to plug Blaze Alexander in that role in an everyday capacity? I don't know if the organization would want to go there either. So they're in a tough spot here, Jack, where on one hand, it does kind of make sense to bring a Eugenio Suárez back if they can. But I don't know if you want to commit to 3 years. And if he goes out there and hits 55 home runs this season or 57 or whatever it winds up being, it's probably going to be hard to, go to his agent and be like, yeah, here's 2 years and $32 million for you. I just don't really think that gets you in the conversation at that point.
Yeah. It's probably all going to be moot. They're probably going to trade him.
Yeah.
And then they just, hopefully they get what they should get for him.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess you could trade him and still maybe we're having this conversation in the offseason, Jack. Who knows? Maybe there's still a path for the Diamondbacks to bring Eugenio Suárez back, even if they do trade him here in the next few days. So we'll certainly see what happens on that front. The other thing I want to touch on real quick before we say goodbye for tonight is that there are reports out there as well, Jack, that the Seattle Mariners are still in on Eugenio Suárez, that just because this move happened with Josh Naylor, that they are still interested in the Suarez sweepstakes. I feel like these reports are almost inevitable. Like anytime a team trades for a player who's teammates with another player that they were linked to, it almost feels like the organization has to do some damage control and be like, no, let's tell all the reporters that we're still in on so-and-so so that the fans don't get disappointed. I feel like those trades don't wind up actually happening most of the time. That's just anecdotally on my end. But at the same time, I mean, can we ever really rule out another Mariners Diamondbacks trade, Jack? These two teams have quite a history.
It's pretty much incredible how often they tend to hook up. I mean, what's the saying? Styles make fights or whatever. And in this case, relationships and styles make GM trading partners. And you can see where that would be. I mean, if they think more or less along the same lines, they're going to be able to come to a meeting of what they both deem as fairness.
Yeah.
So two analytically oriented general managers are more likely to value guys somewhat similarly and then come to a conclusion on a trade talk. Whereas if you have a guy that's maybe super old school and eschews the deep hardcore analytics, there aren't too many GMs like that left, but there's a few that are still pretty old school. Has Mike Hazen made trades with any of those guys? I don't know. I mean, like, I'd have to go and research it. They might be. I'm sure someone in the chat's going to help me out here in a second, which is why we love you guys.
Yeah, well, we certainly expect that there will be much more to come in the next week, whether that is one move or 6 moves. It really feels like it could be anything. We will be here on Snakes Territory, ready to break it down. Hopefully, shortly after it happens, we'll certainly do our best. Again, if you're here with us, we really appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel before you leave. It helps us out a ton. And you can follow us on all of the social media channels. I am at Jesse and Friedman. Jack is at Shoe Wizard 59. Our show is at Snakes Territory. And of course, Jack does great work covering the D-backs as well over at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. So be sure to check that out as well. Jack, any other final thoughts as the Diamondbacks so-called fire sale gets underway?
The Merrill Kelly article that I referenced earlier today, that's been up on the website. You can find that on the website. And be sure also to check in on Alex D'Agostino's work. He is really just killing it over there, keeping up to date on every single development. So, check us out. But please subscribe. We're almost there, guys. If you haven't subscribed, if you're here in this chat and you haven't subscribed, just go over and hit that button right now.
We very much appreciate all of you supporting us here at Snakes Territory. Thanks again, and we'll be back with another episode very, very soon.